Welcome to the Slender for Good Masterclass, Diets and Exercise. That's not how weight loss works. I'm so passionate about this because I wasted so many years trying things that weren't working. And once I finally got really into the research myself, I could see why we're having so much failure with this. And once I knew exactly what not to do, it made it a lot easier to find what I could do that would actually work. All right, so I want to share just a little about my story because this is how I got so passionate about this. By the time I was about 55 years old in 2014, I was really starting to lose my health. I was about 60 pounds overweight. I was eating too much stuff I shouldn't have been eating. I was drinking too much. I was having a really hard time changing all this. I was really confused about what I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating, and what would actually work to lose weight. I had tried Weight Watchers and paleo and South Beach diet. I had tried various things, and really it wasn't adding up to good results for me at all. By that point, I was wearing a size 16, 18. I felt very uncomfortable in my body. I had been able to stay slender through my 20s and 30s, eating donuts every day, drinking on a regular basis, and feeling like, I don't know how people gain so much weight. They must be doing something crazy. And thinking I was totally getting away with eating a lot of stuff that really isn't good for you. And eventually it just really caught up with me. By this point, I had had chronic pain and inflammation from high school that I did not tie to my eating at all. I had terrible insomnia that I didn't know how to get rid of. I had terrible hot flashes. I was just in trouble. I really couldn't even walk for 10 minutes for fun and relaxation anymore. I had to use a wheelchair in the airport. I remember that. I had real problems with pain and inflammation in my back and my feet. And really, when I look back at that time, I look back at when I went through all my papers, getting ready to make a move to Mexico last year, I really discovered, oh my gosh, I was going to the doctor really often asking for help. And she was saying, I don't know what to tell you. I guess I could diagnose you with fibromyalgia, but I don't see how that would help you. I was taking ibuprofen every day. I had been doing that for 30 years. And I had started getting some weird nerve pain at night when I would go to bed. And so I was getting a pill for that. And it just felt like my health is going downhill, big time. And I was really, really depressed about not being able to take a walk anymore. And I had a couple of wake-up calls that just made me go, oh my gosh, I need to pay attention. I need to figure out what works. And one was that when I went to the doctor that year and had my annual physical, they said I was pre-diabetic. And when I Googled that, I discovered that even though theoretically you can change this with diet, most people don't. Most people end up with diabetes who start with pre-diabetes. So I know that's really serious. And I got really concerned about that. And then I started seeing patients in nursing homes. That was my job. And I discovered, I don't know if you know this, but the majority of people in nursing homes are not people in their 90s. They are people in their 60s and 70s. So they've lost their home and their car and their independence, their ability to take care of themselves and make their own choices, really. And they're having to be taken care of by others. And when I started looking into this, how is this happening? How come so many people are ending up in nursing homes in their 60s and 70s? I discovered how much of it was tied to our diet and how we eat. And the more I researched that, the more I realized I have got to do something. And everything I'm figuring out isn't working. I couldn't find somebody that I thought I really felt like they made sense to guide me. So I really just decided, okay, you're ending up in a nursing home in the next 5 to 10 years if you don't make a big change now. You already can barely walk. So I decided, okay, I'm a trained scientist. I can go look at the science myself. What is actually known about what actually works for healthy eating and health and weight? And I started studying and I just committed. This is not going to be fast. I'm not going to figure this out quickly. I'm not going to have a change overnight. But as long as I still have the ability to do my own research, to be on the outside, I'm not in a nursing home yet. I'm going to do the research and make the changes that I believe will make a difference until I either get better or end up in a nursing home. I just got really determined. And fortunately, hopefully you can see there's a really big difference over those next 3 years. As I figured out the key pieces, I found 4 fundamental pieces that work for eating to really change everything. And as I figured them out and implemented them, I started dropping weight, eventually dropped all my excess weight, 60 pounds. But the really exciting thing, I really do love that I can go to my closet and put on anything and it's cute in a size 6. And I did not feel that way. I was super stressed about how I looked and felt in 2014. But now in my 60s, in 2021, I feel better than I felt throughout my 40s and 50s. I can walk, I can go for long hikes again. My dream of being this person in my 80s and 90s who's really spry and can run all over the place and hike in the mountains, etc., is back to being a reality. I didn't have it in my 50s, but I have it back now by changing my eating. So really everything changes when you do what works. And so I really want you to get a little bit from this masterclass about really distinguishing what doesn't work from what works. I think most of us end up doing a hodgepodge kind of approach. Like we do what makes sense and what works a little bit, but we don't do it enough to really get the big results. We mix too much of what works with what doesn't work. And this is where this kind of orientation, I'm going to figure out what works, and that's what I'm going to do. That orientation changed everything for me. So I really want to give you a little bit of a sense of what doesn't work and what does work in this masterclass. Does that sound good? Oh, so I didn't say, but my sleep went from insomnia most nights to sleeping great every night. I don't have the brain fog anymore. I have really youthful energy and vitality now. I was able to go off all the pills I was taking for pain. I don't have pain and inflammation anymore. Giant stuff, right? And the great thing I'll tell you too is it's not just me and my friends and family who have done this and my clients who have done this, but I went and looked for, are there other programs teaching these 4 fundamentals of how to eat like I discovered? And I found 3 other programs that are teaching the same approach to eating. And what's really exciting about that is it means I'm able to observe hundreds and hundreds of people all the time, every day, achieving the same kind of transformative results that I had. So it's not just me, it works. And I don't know if you know this, but like when I was growing up, the majority of people in society were not overweight or obese. It was kind of rare. Now, most people in our society are overweight or obese, over 70%. And this keeps going up and going up year after year. And it definitely got worse during the pandemic. So it's now more likely than not that we're overweight or obese. And for a lot of us, this has a whole lot of health and life implications. It's not something we just want to say, oh, well, for me, oh, well, wasn't working. My life was going downhill big time. And one of the things that I realized from doing all this research is the way we eat these days in our society is causing this big weight gain. It's not just a little wrong, it's very wrong. And the other things that go along with this are people are developing heart disease and diabetes and cancer at huge rates. So actually, if you went to societies where people were eating a traditional human diet, where we hadn't gotten into all this kind of processed foods and mass-produced foods, you would see very little cancer, very little heart disease, and very little diabetes. These are diseases that go along with our way of eating. And super unfortunate that our way of eating has now been transplanted across the globe. So like, for example, researchers studied people in China in the urban centers who were suddenly developing these 3 diseases that we get in the West. They're developing heart disease and cancer and diabetes. And so they started looking at, well, why is that happening? People in rural China aren't, but people in urban Chinese cities are. And it turned out to be the diet. They had transported our diet. They were eating our foods. And so it's pretty important that we understand the way that people are eating all around us is not something we need to change a little bit. We need to take a pretty different approach to eating to get different results from this. If we just tweak the way we're eating around the edges, we eat better than maybe 75% of the people we know, it may not be enough to actually work. We may have to just really change our whole approach to how we eat. Might sound scary, but it's pretty exciting because there really are some really simple principles that absolutely work. So before we talk a little bit about what does work, I want to talk a little bit about what doesn't work, because understanding that is absolutely key to changing what you're doing. So you quit mixing what doesn't work with what does work. One thing that doesn't work is dieting, cutting your calories. You know, this is based on the principle of thermodynamics that says calories in must equal calories out. But here's the really mistaken interpretation that got put on that, as I understand this, is that if you force yourself to reduce the calories coming in or to burn more calories going out, then your body is going to be forced to let go of excess weight that it's holding on to. But that isn't how it works. The body is really well designed to protect us from starvation. It's really well designed to follow this principle of homeostasis. And so it's well designed to maintain our weight, even if we're having to exercise more, or even if we're eating less. So there's a couple of ways that it does that I've seen, and you might have seen these too. One is it makes you more hungry. If you exercise, you're going to feel more hungry. If you eat less, you're going to feel more hunger. In fact, it could feel really stressful, right? It's one of the reasons why dieting is so uncomfortable and unpleasant, and people are scared of it. Our body is going to fight us. I'm going to make you hungry. The other thing that our bodies do when we do this dieting and exercise is they slow our metabolism. Our bodies start handling fat differently and start storing fat to protect us. And so, it's so sad to look at the stories of the people who did The Biggest Loser. If you ever watch that show, they fight really hard to really cut back on how much they're eating, even though they get really hungry. And they fight really hard to exercise a lot, to burn a lot of calories. And they often will drop weight for a little while. But virtually all of them gain that weight back and then some. And you can look at them years down the road and their metabolism continues to be slow. So the body really fights you on weight loss if the approach you're taking is wrong. If your approach is really at odds with how the body works, you're going to feel like your body's fighting you, and it is. So we really want to understand this. Our whole mentality of, well, I ate this morning, so I'm going to eat a little less tonight, is just all based on a misunderstanding. We do not need to be doing this bargaining. It's not working. It's not helping us. And there's one other thing I would say about what doesn't work, and that's magic pills. I mean, I get really drawn into those ads of here's some little tiny cup of something, and you're going to drink it, and you're going to feel great, and the fat is going to melt off your body. You know, it's just not how our bodies work. Our bodies are not going to respond well to taking magic pills. They're going to respond well to eating healthy foods. And that's what I'm going to get to next. So here's just one more way to make this point, that calories are not created equal. Your body is not going to respond the same to a 100-calorie package of highly processed stuff that doesn't have nutrition in it, as it's going to respond to the 100 calories of berries. I don't know if you've noticed, when you're eating something that's highly processed, like pretzels or chips or popcorn or cookies, etc., or candy, you can just eat and eat and eat it. You can just really overeat that. And that's because, in addition to the two things I just said about what the body does, when you don't give it the right nutrition, the other thing that it does is it changes the hormone response to responses related to hunger and satiety. So this is one reason why when those hormones get messed up from eating these processed foods, then we don't get the hunger signals that we should get associated with eating. So I remember sometimes I would have this experience of feeling like, okay, I just ate some processed food. If I really stop and think about it, I feel like I had enough. But then I immediately have a compulsion to keep eating it. So it's almost like I would feel really full and really hungry at the same time. I don't know if you've ever had that. But part of that is that our bodies are going to respond to non-nutritious stuff completely differently than they respond to nutritious stuff. We're not going to force our bodies. We're not going to eat a whole bunch of processed stuff, take a magic pill, and feel well and have a healthy body and release the excess weight. We are going to have to figure out how to eat what our bodies actually need to be healthy and happy. So when I realized this, it changed the whole game. It changed everything. When I started realizing my body's got all these systems, it's got the system for managing my temperature, for keeping me from getting too hot or too cold. And it's got a system for processing food. And it's got a system for managing, the blood pumping through my body and getting where it needs to get. It's got a system for breathing. Got all these systems that I don't get to be in charge of. All I can do is, it's a complex adaptive system. I'm not going to be able to force it to do what I want it to do. What I can do is start to really learn what will actually make my body so happy that it's completely comfortable cooperating with my goal of releasing excess weight. Does that make sense to you? I love these two pictures together. To me, this captures a lot of what I finally figured out is I've got to figure out how to work with my body, and then my body is going to work with me. And I mean, it changed everything. It changed everything about how I feel and everything about my functioning and everything about my ability to look forward to a really bright future. And so there are these 4 keys to this, and it's really not that hard once you change your mind about your approach to eating. So here's what my client Krista said. She's dropped 40 pounds. Now she weighs less than she's weighed since she started having children 13 years ago. She says, this plan makes so much sense. And it wasn't hard to stick with because I started feeling amazing so quickly. I'm confident I'll eat this way the rest of my life. And I did not say that about the prior 400 weight loss programs I tried. So to finally get great results, you need a couple of things and see if these things make sense to you. First, you need a system that works. You need an approach to eating that actually works for your body, that isn't trying to force your body, that's working with how your body works. And I call it happy body eating. I think that captures better than anything that our whole approach is to making our body happy, not just our taste buds, not just our schedule. It's not just about convenience. It's not just about how it tastes, although how it tastes matters. But really, it also really matters if we're eating things that make our body really healthy and happy. And that's what we figure out how to do in happy body eating. Second, you really need, you need a system that works, and then you need to implement it really effectively. Implementing it to to 50% may not get you very good results. It might be something good is happening, but most of us don't find we get these big, complete turnarounds in our health, and we don't get all the way to our slender, right-sized bodies until we figure out how to implement what works really effectively. And some of us can do some pieces of it really quickly, and some pieces, like I have a client who didn't like vegetables, who felt like, candy and wine, et cetera, were really, really important. And it was just a gradual process for her implementing these pieces, just getting one thing to really work and another thing to really work. Well, it took me years because I didn't have the answers all at once. I had to discover the answers and trial and error, et cetera. A lot of my clients can implement this so much faster with help. So the first thing is just really quit using approaches that don't work, that make your body fight your weight loss. Find an approach that actually works. I have one, some other people have one. Using an approach that works is absolutely critical. Second, you need to figure out how to implement it really faithfully. Like here's one example for me, once I really got breakfast working, like I understand how to have the breakfast now, and I really enjoy my breakfast. Then I moved on to lunch, right? And once I got a really great lunch going, a really great rotation of lunches, then I moved on to dinner. Some of us find dinner slightly more complicated, partly because we're tired and we find we need to have things that are kind of easy to pull together, but also still appealing. And here's one thing I really want to get across is that hodgepodge approaches never add up. They just never add up. We find this in all kinds of intervention approaches in my field, like if you're doing substance abuse prevention, you're helping people quit smoking, you're helping people start a new diet routine or a new exercise routine, etc. If you kind of try to do a hodgepodge approach, it just never adds up to very good results. I've seen in so many places that a hodgepodge approach doesn't add up. All right, so when it comes to changing our weight, changing our eating to really get into our slender right-sized body and really reverse health conditions, really get our great vitality back, we really need to use one approach that makes sense and implement it quite faithfully. Now, I share this slide because I really didn't understand. I don't know about you guys. We hear people say, oh, quit smoking. Well, my aunt who smoked lived to be 100, So what actually makes a really big difference for disease, for ill health? And I really didn't know that eating was so important until I made these changes myself. So then when I started looking into the research, I saw physical inactivity is a predictor. It's a serious predictor of ill health around the globe by causing about 3% of ill health. And alcohol is really important. There's a lot of deaths every year associated with alcohol, mostly with accidents and with cancer. And then tobacco, also really important, right? Really worth giving up. 6.5% of illness is caused by smoking. But look at diet by comparison, almost 35%. It's huge. So now I really realize eating is one of those big dominoes. Like for me, changing my eating and my drinking changed everything. It changed everything. It opened up so many doors in my life. I wonder if you have already known that, understood that, or if that's kind of news to you. I had no idea I could have such huge changes by changing my eating. So happy body eating, what are some of the benefits? One is, sort of the title of my program, it's Slender for Good. You can get all the way to slender. I thought I would have to stop. I thought I probably can't get lower than 150 at this age anymore, but I flew past 150 once I figured out how to eat. You can really get to your, your college sized body. You do not have to be at an over 50 size. Your body lets go of that excess fat and excess weight, and you can get back into your right size body when you eat right. It's pretty dang cool. You can really get a healthy, happy body. People are reversing all kinds of health conditions. I talked about pain and inflammation, insomnia, hot flashes, being able to really walk and move again so much, like a far younger person. I never forget one day I just suddenly noticed, oh my gosh, I'm walking like a young woman again. My mom mentioned the next time she saw me, you're walking faster than I am, and it's the first time in years. Also, I've gone from being sick about 40 days a year to less than 1 day a year with some kind of virus. So many ways your body says, I'm really happy with you. I'm really happy with how you're feeding me. And as one of my clients said this week, I'm really happy with how I'm feeding my body, and it's really paying me back with flexibility and agility and strength and energy. And speaking of energy, a lot of us find we just get so much more youthful vitality back. I had a client the other day saying, I've got energy to go several hours more in the evening than I was able to go. I used to have to, we got to go home and go to bed because I feel so worn out. And now I can do all kinds of other things in the evening that I didn't used to be able to do. I get to see it in my clients' faces. I get to see them go from looking really tired and worn out early in sessions. And as they change their eating, I see a whole bunch more energy and vitality. Yay. And people say, I just love my body. I just feel so much more comfortable and happy with my body. I feel lighter on my feet. One of my clients said this week, we go to Hawaii every year and I feel comfortable in shorts. I feel comfortable in a bathing suit. I don't sit down and feel like I need to cover the rolls of fat anymore because they're not there. So just feeling really happy with your body is one of the great benefits. And a lot of people find they get so much clarity and calm and peace with their eating. They're not battling with themselves or bargaining with themselves anymore about, I'm going to eat this now, but later that means I can eat that. And then I'm going to have to exercise. They're just not going through all those gyrations about their eating anymore. I don't know if you know, researchers find that the typical person makes over 200 decisions about eating and drinking every day. Like we're thinking about it all the time. We're negotiating, we're bargaining. I think this is a really weird place we've gotten to in our society. It's not natural. It's not healthy human behavior. We should eat our meals, enjoy them, and then not think about eating the rest of the day, not be wondering, worrying, what am I going to do? I used to battle with myself. Okay, tonight, I'm just going to eat healthy. I'm not going to do the pigging out and the chocolate and the wine, etc. And every night I would give in and just feel so much stress over it and so much just out of integrity with myself. So all my clients talk about this. I'm so much calmer and more peaceful about eating. So here's a client who did my intensive program last summer. She said, my thinking has completely shifted about how I eat, and I have so much more calm and peace around food than I've ever had. It just makes sense and feels right to eat this way, and my doctor's visit results were truly astonishing. I love the sense of freedom and joy that go with this way of eating, and I'm going to eat this way for life. So I don't know how many of you, as you approach a diet, you don't think freedom and joy, right? You think deprivation and sadness and pain. And that's because of what our bodies do when we cut calories. That's not what this is. Yeah, this is a way of eating that freedom and joy go along with, that makes so much sense and feels so right. And so here's the third piece I talked about. You need to have a system that actually works, and you need to implement it faithfully, effectively. You need to do it in a way that is enough, is true enough to actually work. And the third piece is, so this becomes, you don't ever have to diet again. This becomes so sustainable, is you have to make it your habit. Eating is very habit driven. And so this new way of eating that makes so much sense, that makes your body happy, that gets you slender for good, needs to become very habitual and just something that you do. You just keep sustaining it. You don't diet for a temporary period of time and then go back to old habits. You really completely shift your habits to absolutely work. So to make happy body eating easy and enjoyable, you make it a habit. And we really, in the program, one of the things I discovered when I joined somebody else's program to observe how is this for women in my age group, I saw this way of eating absolutely works for us. But our mindsets and our lifestyles are sometimes holding us back from getting the success that sometimes the younger women and the men are getting. And so we really need to change certain mindsets that are defeating us, like the diet mindset. The diet mindset has a whole bunch of things wrong with it. One is that it's guiding us to eat less, which is just going to backfire for our bodies. It's also guiding us to do this bargaining with ourselves, which causes us to have to fret about eating too much. it's also an idea. It's also this mindset that it's a temporary set of changes we're going to make. And then we're going to go back to our old way of eating, which leads to terrible results. And the other thing is it's focused on deprivation. And that mindset is just setting us up for failure. We're not going to be able to keep eating in this way unless it in a new way that our bodies really like, unless it becomes something really enjoyable that we can sustain. Does that make sense? So we're changing these mindsets and we're changing the way of eating, because the way of eating that's all around us and that mindset lead to being overweight or obese. We need to eat differently so we can have much richer lives. One of the reasons that I'm sharing this masterclass right now is to let people know I have a new intensive program opening very soon. It's a 6-week program. It took me a long time to take my program from 12 months to a starter program of 6 weeks where you can really, some people release all their excess weight. Some people make a really good start on releasing their excess weight. You can really start feeling, wow, this way of eating changes how my body feels. I feel so much more energy. I sleep better, etc. It's really powerful. People say it's life-changing, and I'm so pleased about that, because it took me about a year to figure out how can I teach this effectively enough in a really brief time that people can really get a sense whether they want to do this or not do this. They can really start to get results. So I'm so happy it's such an effective program. So the secret to Slender for Good, it's already kind of woven in here, but you learn to eat so your body cooperates with your weight loss. That's one of the absolutely big keys. And second, you learn how to make it easy, enjoyable, and effortless, with certain mindset shifts and lifestyle tweaks. And that's what makes it really sustainable. It really needs to be something that you go, you know what? I love eating this way. This is just the way I eat. I'm just going to keep doing it. I hear this from my clients all the time. It's not that hard. I really enjoy it. It really works. I feel completely better, and I'm just going to keep doing it. So as Krista said, the intensive program is life-changing. And Barb said she's in awe at how much she's benefited from the Slender for Good program, achieving lasting weight loss. She's changing habits and feeling healthy. And she says it's much more doable and enjoyable than people might think. My clients say this all the time. This is easier than people think. And the way people get into the program is I need to get to know you. You need to get to know me a little bit. We do that through a one-on-one call. I get a chance to hear what your story is, and we get a chance to feel out, does it seem like this is an approach that would really be effective for you? So we get a chance to figure out together, does this approach fit you? Do you fit this approach? It can work for anybody, but I really want to choose people for the program who are ready and feel like they're ready to make a change. So that's the link there to schedule an assessment call. When you finally do what works, your body will start cooperating with you on your health and weight loss goals. This different approach to eating goes along with this description, this feeling. I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. And it took a long breath and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this. I mean, that's been a huge shift for me from what can I get away with doing to my body to how can I really learn to take really good care of my body. And this is what we're headed for. We're not on diets. We've found a way of eating that makes our body healthy and happy. So what insights are you taking away? What stands out to you as, ooh, that's something I really want to learn more about?